Welcome to the FeustelFIT podcast with your host, Nicola Feustel. Straight talking, body positive coach and personal trainer. Nicola brings you your weekly guide to finding real health and fitness and to live the life you deserve.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the FeustelFIT Health and Fitness podcast and radio show on 91.8 Hazer FM. Today I speak to Kristian Mcphee, who is my weightlifting coach and also our British champion of 2016. Please be aware this is the radio show live, so there are a lot of noises going on in the background and lots of cuts where I've had to take out all of the adverts and the local news. So other than that, enjoy the show, check out the show notes on SoundCloud, and we'll be back next week. So the first thing I asked my guest to do is just introduce himself and tell us a little bit about how he got into weightlifting.
Yeah, so I essentially now I think everyone would class me as a weightlifter, Olympic weightlifter. I won the British Championships last year. I've won the British Under-23 Championships and British Student Championships, and also the head coach of the Brunel University student team. Along with that, my coach takes care of like our elite guys, and he's Mike Pearman. He was a national coach for many years, and he went to the Olympics 3 times. So we're kind of quite involved heavily with British weightlifting. Before that, though, I was doing parkour or free running for about 9 years, and I was doing that professionally, like performance jobs as well as coaching too. So that was a lot of, say, gymnastics side of things, body weight exercises, as well as obviously the kind of crazy stuff people think parkour is.
I just explain it to people like Spider-Man jumping on the
Spider-Man,
walls.
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a lot more accessible now. I think when I started, like, we just wanted to be obviously as extreme as we could be. But yeah, I mean, through parkour, I got into the rock climbing side of things, gymnastics side of things, and also got a background in dancing too. So along with that,
Multi-talented.
Yeah, well, I don't know, talent is strong, but I say I've been exposed to so many different elements. It kind of makes you adaptable for all sports. And that's what I think a lot of people kind of miss. If you know, say if you only do football, or even if you only do just one thing like gymnastics or something, I think the best thing you can do for a lot of people is have loads of skills, so that your body's always adapting to different things. Obviously, if you want to compete, it's a different kettle of fish. But
then, as they say, like jack of all trades, master of none. But you're pretty good at a few things.
Well, yeah, but I've never. I did parkour for 2 years overlapping with weightlifting, and I remember one time we did this. We did like a week in Birmingham. This JCB, we work for JCB, the truck company. They do dancing diggers, where they essentially put the diggers on their sides and do loads of like stunts with these diggers, because they have such strong hydraulics. It's kind of crazy. It looks really good if you YouTube JCB digger team. They're pretty fun if you like that kind of stuff. But we did parkour on the diggers, so they would do like set up some sort of ramp thing, and we had scaffolding. And we did this big show in Paris and Intimat, but they rented out the whole. If you've ever been to the NEC in Birmingham, it's massive, right? So you've got the big exhibition halls. They rented out the whole hall. Just for our rehearsals for the week, so it was madness to have such a big space. Yeah, it was huge, but it was great. We had this whole week, we rehearsed it, and then on the Saturday I came back, competed in my first weightlifting competition. I think I got 4th or something, which wasn't bad for the first time. And then the next day we flew out to Paris to do the actual performance for the week as well. So when I was doing that, my head was all over the place of where I wanted to be and kind of where I wanted to take the direction, and I kind of fell out of love with parkour because of the performance side of things, kind of forcing you to do stuff that usually I did it for myself. So then because my coach was so serious, he said, if you want to be good at it, you've got to dedicate to the sport and drop the other thing I did. So that's what I've been doing basically ever since, and been ploughing away to kind of get as good as I can, which proves to be certain injuries and stuff I've carried forward, or stiffness and lack of flexibility. It's been like a long journey.
You sound like an old man for the people who are on air.
yeah.
But you're actually quite young, aren't you?
26. Is that young now? Weightlifting wise, it's a mix. I'm probably mid-range.
So tell us then, what was life like as a child, and what was your family like in terms of health and fitness?
So this is why my brain's so I take everything so seriously. One guy said to me, no matter what I do, I always take it to the nth degree. So when I did parkour, I took it as far as I could. Now weightlifting, I try and take it as far as I could. So my mum, she runs a dance and drama school as well as like a kind of health centre as well now. But originally it was just a dance school that moved into drama as well. And that's called Jam 2000 in Ruislip. So essentially she came from show business rather than just teaching dancing. So she already had a professional career. She won the talent program, which is like X Factor back in the day, called New Faces. Their partner Gary Wilmot. So they did that. So my dad was they happened to meet. He was like the stage manager or something at ironically Butlins, and apparently he was the one who told her she wasn't any good. So from that, they kind of had this. Like, my dad likes to tell everybody what he should do. He's got great ideas, but my dad's not the performer, shall we say, but my mum is. So with that, I've got a kind of serious dad with ideas. My mum's takes it quite there. So that surrounded by that as a kid, I'd definitely say everything I've done has always been, quite a hard work ethic from both parents. And yeah, I don't know, I'm quite a intrinsically motivated person. So with that, like, individual sports really attracted me. But yeah, I mean, I fell out of love with football originally because I was good at football, but you had to rely on a team basically, and I didn't like that. But when I found parkour, I was like, wow, this is awesome, and so yeah, I kind of took that to that level. But with the dancing side, although I did it for 20 years, it wasn't like I wanted to be a dancer or anything. I think it was just something separate from everything else I did. And the shows are always fun, like performing I liked. And ironically, with weightlifting, you are on a stage and you are performing.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So did you actually do like theatre productions or just dance? The drama side we did do definitely the theatre side of things, and I think I did drama A level as well. But I know the teacher at my school was begging me to do the theatre plays, but I just wanted to train parkour. I didn't want to, because you have to give up a lot of time for that stuff, and I already gave up a fair bit of time for my mum's productions. So, I mean, for me, I think if I didn't hate everyone in theatre, like, it's a very cliquey kind of play, I would love to do it, and I love acting. But yeah, I think I always felt like it was too. The culture is almost as, I don't like it as much as the kind of like football culture which was like, I don't know, we were getting people like threatening to beat us up in the car park and stuff. We just started playing some rough games, and I was like, I don't really want to be involved with this. Wow.
And then with the theatre stuff, it was like I had to listen to some guy on a gap year how he'd been in South America for 5 months or something, and he was like, yeah. And so I was like, I really pulled away from that. And I just like, I don't know, I think with weightlifting, and I'm sure you found it, is that with you can't hide from the numbers. Your performance can show your hard work, but with obviously, say your side of the fit physique side of things, a lot of people have good genetics, or they can take certain supplements so that you can actually look better than you actually are. And with weightlifting, you mean
like with bodybuilding type exercise?
Yeah. You can't. Some guys look fantastic with very little training, and some guys work really hard, and they're just not built to look like that. So you can hide the hard work quite easily, or easier than when weightlifting you can't really, because the technique holds you back. So that's why I kind of pushed into that, because it's almost like you can't fake it, and that's why I think I get so attracted to weightlifting and even things like parkour, because it's quite a scary sport. So if you're not very strong in your mind, then people tend to find it. They almost drop out of the sport completely because it's too stressful.
Well, I am going to ask you about that later on with all of your thrill factor things that you do. But how did you originally get into weightlifting? So obviously you said you've done the dance, then you did the parkour. What attracted you to the weightlifting, and when did you first start?
Well, I think it's really important for people to realise that Olympic weightlifters have the biggest vertical jump out of all Olympic athletes. So compared to the long jumpers, high jumpers, sprinters, the weightlifters can jump higher from a standing power output than any of them. As well as, say, even if you put them across a sprint of 10 metres, they're most likely to either beat or slightly match the sprinters. So essentially with parkour, we wanted to have a massive jump to be able to essentially jump over a building. And one of our guys was doing a strength and conditioning course at St Mary's, so we got onto a big discussion about weight training being good for like strengthening your tendons, even like bone density and power output as well. Because with producing power, you want to have as much speed as well as strength. And with parkour, we had a lot of speed, but we weren't very strong overall. So if you increase your strength, if you get strong in your legs, if for anyone out here wants to be faster or wants to be stronger, resistance training can notch the body up to the next level. So essentially we just did squats and deadlifts, which most people know now is really good for like toning the legs as well as back strengthening, and helping essentially stop you losing your kind of posture, health and things like that. So as well as doing that...
Can I get you to hold fire on the rest of that? We just have to take a little break. We'll be right back. Looks like we're back on, so welcome to the FeustelFIT Health and Fitness Show, 91.8 Hayes FM. So some adverts are a little bit shorter than others, so that was quite a short one. So we're going to dive right back in, talking to Kristian Mcphee, and we were talking about your squats and deadlifts. So how you got into weightlifting from doing parkour.
Yeah, I basically did the standard squats, deadlift, bench, essentially quite similar powerlifting movements. And I noticed a massive decrease in knee pain. So a lot of you have got knee pain. I do recommend doing full range of motion squats, even if it's not that heavy. But
so you're talking about arse to grass squats?
Yeah. Obviously, if you've got the mobility, but I think full range of motion is essentially a good indicator of whether you're in good shape. And a lot of people avoid the full range of motion just for the sake of kind of lifting more weight, which is probably worse for your health side, but might look better on Instagram or something. But yeah, so we did that, and then there's rumours that essentially Olympic weightlifting is those guys have the biggest vertical jump. So we were like, okay, well, we've strengthened our knees, we've got stronger, our jump's got a bit bigger, but how can we take it to the next level? So I travelled all the way to Crystal Palace because the sport was it was kind of prior to the boom of CrossFit, so there were not many gyms that claimed to be doing Olympic weightlifting. So I travelled all the way to Crystal Palace, and I live out this way anyway, so I think I had a motorbike at the time, so it took me probably like over an hour and 20 or something to get there, maybe an hour. But it was during the summer as well, so I was wearing all my gear because I was a new rider and I was sweating to death. I remember turning up, doing a whole session with like a broomstick for about 2 weeks, and then I just couldn't travel there anymore. And it was coached by Keith Morgan. Crystal Palace is kind of meant to be one of the kind of national, well, one of the main Londoner weightlifting centres. So it was a cool place to train, but it's just too far. However, my friend carried on for 1 year. I carried on doing squats and deadlifts. The year later, I came and watched him at a competition at Crystal Palace, and I just so happened to sit next to this dad that he said, "Oh, are you competing?" And I said, No. And he said, "Well, that's my son." And I said, "Oh, where's he train?" He said, "Brunel." So I was like, I didn't really know much about Brunel at the time, but I just knew it was in Uxbridge. So he said, "Yeah, there's a coach there, Mike Pearman, if you go over and talk to him." And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll have a chat with him in a bit. And he's like, no, go over now. So he dragged me over, and so basically, if it wasn't for this parent just forcing me to go speak to Mike, Mike was like, yeah, come down Tuesdays at 4 or something.
So it's good to have a pushy parent. Even
yeah, because I think he knows like the sport's so small, especially back then it was tiny, to get like you need everyone you can get, and when Mike met me, he kind of just said, let's show me a snatch. And at that time I hadn't done snatch for like a year. He just said, show me the snatch. So I grabbed the bar, and then it just kind of started from there. So no one actually taught me from the ground up really, apart from Keith a year before with a broomstick. So I kind of just threw myself in, and that's kind of how I went in. And then within 2 weeks I dislocated my shoulder on a snatch balance, but essentially it was a accident waiting to happen, because I had shoulder problems from imbalances from parkour, from a lot of the handstand work we did. We got quite dominant in the upper traps and your shoulders and your neck, so the shoulders weren't sitting in the kind of correct position. So I've basically been plagued from correcting my shoulder for my whole career, I'd say, so far. It took me a long while to get there, but it's inspiring, and from a coaching perspective it's been great to kind of learn from that. But that's basically from there I got super addicted. It's a very addictive sport if you like kind of tracking numbers, progress, and because of parkour I had a lot of power to begin with, so I started quite high, but then I've had to dial it back a lot and relearn technique and correct things. So sometimes you're better off being, I mean, Nicola's, when you tried it, you've been very strong from the beginning, but you know, you're quite patient, but a lot of blokes that start off strong just lose it generally, and I would say I'm quite patient, but I wish I would have had a coach that would have said drill this for now, and I had a lot of people help me out. But I think, you know, for anyone who wants to try it, you've got to spend at least, you know, 3 years really laying the foundations so that, you know, the next years are perfect, versus doing like a rushed in first year. But, you know,
yeah, see, that's what I want to know, really. How long does it take to get good, and how do you classify good?
I know,
we're going to come back to that. We do have a break coming up in 3 minutes. I don't want to ask you a really lengthy question, but there's so many like terms to do with weightlifting, and I wasn't even sure in the beginning, like powerlifting, Olympic lifting, like what's the difference?
So they used to all be one kind of sport, like weightlifting was weightlifting, and then during I think the 70s there was a big branch off between, because they got rid of the clean and press, which loads of people would have heard of back in the day. You clean it and then you press it above your head with your arms. They got rid of that, so then essentially the snatch, clean and jerk are quite athletic gymnastic movements. So the guys that were quite big, like the classic kind of power, big kind of large bald guys who generally do powerlifting now, they were kind of alienated from our sport. So then powerlifting is just squat, bench and deadlift, strength style sport. So even though it's called powerlifting, there's not essentially much power, whereas Olympic lifting is fast, speedy and athletic, and it's the only type of weightlifting that's in the Olympics. So for those of you who want to go to the Olympics, I'd train Olympic weightlifting. For those of you who want to get kind of strong, like overall, and kind of love a bit of bench press, then yeah, powerlifting's a sport for you.
But you can also compete in powerlifting, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm terrible at bench press, but my deadlift's quite strong, and then my squat as well is quite strong. So at my body weight, if I just trained bench press, I could go compete in powerlifting, yeah.
So I guess that's where the two merge together, isn't it? Because obviously to be strong at Olympic lifting, you have to do squats and deadlifts.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realise, like, squats and deadlifts are assistance exercises to us. So loads of people ask us, oh, you're a weightlifter, like, how much do you bench? You know, but we don't actually do any bench press, really. Like, some guys do it to strengthen their triceps and shoulders for the jerk, but a lot of the time, like for myself, I'm quite tight in the shoulders anyway, so it's going to tighten me up more to do bench press. But, you know, I think maybe if I retire from Olympic lifting, it might be fun to do a few powerlifting competitions, which a lot of weightlifters do. Like Delroy McQueen was a good Olympic weightlifter. I think he won medals at the Commonwealth. He definitely holds a British record for the clean and jerk still. He just went into powerlifting and broke some world records there.
What's that record, do you remember?
For clean and jerk?
Yeah.
210. It was more than the heavyweight, super heavyweight clean and jerk record at the time. And I think his squat, I'm pretty sure he squat 450 kilos or something in powerlifting.
Wow. On that note, we're going to take the local news and we'll be right. Tell us, Kristian, what's your schedule like? So how many days are you training and what types of lifting are you doing? Because you mentioned before squats and deadlifts really help with Olympic lifting.
So we do... essentially, our heavy days are on Tuesday, Thursday. That's more of like a logistical issue with when my coach turns up. So Mondays will be a kind of a focus on kind of my weaknesses, my technique weaknesses, as well as some assistance exercises such as like core work, because you have to do a lot of core work with weightlifting, because a lot of people don't realise, like, when people wear that belt, it's usually signalling a weakness in the core. If it helps me lift more weight. But if you're wearing a belt for any of the guys in the gym all the time, it usually means your back's not strong enough and your core's not strong enough, because if you have weak abs, your back will take the brunt of it. So making sure I do that on the Monday will mean that my heavier session on Tuesday is, one, safer, but also stronger, because it helps the kind of strength carry through with your legs. So we have to do a lot of technique work overhead. So if anyone wants to see what we do, if you just go on YouTube and type in snatch weightlifting, then you'll find... you'll see how kind of crazy the overhead position is. that position there for me is my weak point, so I have to drill a lot of that, and kind of warming that up on a Monday is great. Tuesday we usually do the full lifts, so when we say full lifts we mean coming from the floor and doing it. So the snatch is coming from the floor to above in one movement, and the clean and jerk is from the floor to your shoulders, and then from your shoulders to above your head, and that's the kind of classic what everyone thinks weightlifting is. And then Wednesday is usually lighter stuff, or I might even have it off. And especially with my injury in my shoulder recently, I've had to make sure I do have those days off, because there's only so much squats you can do when you've got an injured shoulder. Then on a Thursday, it usually be a focus on, say, I might clean and jerk first and then snatch afterwards, because then it kind of flips around. But I still try and focus more on the full lift so that I can get better coaching. Friday, I usually do a lot of jerk work, so working overhead to strengthen, like push press, and making sure I've got that stability overhead, because a lot of people when they start they kind of wobble around, and my best jerk's 155 off the rack, so that's coming out of like a squat rack where the bar already starts on your shoulders, so you don't have to do the clean from the floor. That kind of movement there when I started was very weak, because I just thought you could just wangle it. I thought you could just get super strong in the squat and then just throw the weight up, and which was a complete mistake. So I wasted a lot of time. I had a strong clean, but I couldn't even jerk it. And from a competitive standpoint, if you can only do 50% of the movement, then it doesn't mean anything in a competition. But I think, if I was just training for general health and fitness, I think I would have just pick the exercise I like doing and forget about snatch.
I love snatch.
Yeah, well, I think
it looks the best as well.
Yeah, you move quite fluid. You're more flexible than me, so I think when that movement goes well, it's a lot easier. But I think people really enjoy it. A good snatch movement feels quite I don't know. It feels almost like clockwork. It just kind of slots in at that right position. It doesn't feel heavy. But when you do the bad technique, it feels pretty horrific, and if you're a bit stiff as well. But then Saturday, usually I'll just do more assistance work. We do a lot of like Romanian deadlifts as well to strengthen our backs and hamstrings. Do
you do like single legs?
Yeah. So I think with a sport like weightlifting, because you're using two legs for a lot of the movements and then only one leg for that split jerk, when one foot goes in front and one foot goes behind when you punch it overhead, that movement naturally creates these imbalances. So working a lot on like single leg movements, as I said, with even working with single arm movements are really important. And especially for anyone training in the gym, like if you're only going to use the kind of machines, or you're only going to do a bench press and stuff, people generally find over time you get some sort of injury come up. And I think all the single arm stuff and single leg stuff really points out kind of prehabilitative exercises. So realizing, okay, that's really weak on that arm, maybe if I do that I'll stop an injury in the future, which a lot of the time we ignore and pay the price in the future, which isn't something you want to do.
So going back to the question that I asked you earlier, how long does it take to be good, and what is the marker of good? I.e., is it like a lift per your body weight?
I think me and my coach had this discussion. So if you look at the world-class level, like, you just can't even digest how strong these guys are and the weights they do. So it's almost like pointless to even compare, because from a world-class perspective, there's no one really that's made it in the top 5 or whatever that hasn't started at about 12 years old. And we're not talking dedicated to weightlifting at 12 years old. We're just talking about exposure to the movement, so the technique's ingrained early on.
Then, all those pushy parents listening, get your kids
involved.
Get
your kids into it, exactly. The old Tiger Woods. But that's what a lot of kids have done. You tend to find that a lot of coaches' sons become very good weightlifters because their coach has realised, okay, he's 12 years old or he's 8 years old, let's just give him a little stick and he can practice the technique. And then when they hit about 16, they might still be doing another sport. Like Andy Callard, he's got 2 sons at the moment. One of them did cycling to quite a high level and the other one does judo. And they're fantastic. They work so hard, but one of them's just been to the World Juniors to compete, and he's on the ranking list for the adult class for his weight class. So they're not even fully dedicated weightlifters, but he's kind of introduced such a variety of skills with them that now this 16-year-old He might be 17 now, but he snatches, I think, 100, and clean and jerks 130 kilos at 62 kilo body weight, which is very light and really strong for his age. So, but he's not injured because his dad knows that if you lift too heavy, the kind of weights they're doing and train too hard at that age, just weightlifting, for example, it not only like kind of hinders their potential, but also kind of peaks them a bit too early. So there's no rush with weightlifting so much. Like you want, when you're 16 years old, train hard till you're 20, and then you should be peaking when you're 25, 24. It takes a lot longer to peak if you don't use any certain supplements like certain other countries have. You tend to
we're going to come back to that, talk about supplements and nutrition as well right after this. Welcome back to 91.8 Hayes FM with myself, Nicola Feustel. I think we're going to dive straight back into the questions with Kristian Mcphee and talk about nutrition, because we were just talking a little bit off air and I was asking him if he enjoys himself and has some alcohol. But what I really wanted to know, one of my questions was, does nutrition come into play a lot more with weightlifting in terms of your recovery and gaining strength and performance?
I think, first of all, it comes down to your weight class. So if you're just doing weightlifting as a hobby, I think it's just really important to make sure you get, ironically, like we all say it, but get enough protein in, because just the repair rate is got to be really high. In terms of carbohydrates and things and energy levels, it's really a mixed bag. We're not like running, you don't need to carbo load or something like that. So some people find they kind of enjoy the carbohydrates during training. I definitely recommend having carbohydrates prior to training, whether that's through a slow release source like brown rice, or whether it is through slightly faster release, like even oats are faster release there. But I wouldn't say anyone really has like energy gels or Lucozade. There's some guys that like drinking Red Bull before they train, but I'm not an advocate of the kind of energy drinks, because I think your heart rate goes too high, and with weightlifting you want to be in control a bit more rather than like panicking.
That makes sense, because your heart rate goes really high, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I can't concentrate. Yeah, and you need to be patient through the first bit off the floor, control it, and then accelerate. So that makes sense. Yeah, in that way it's so different from every other sport, isn't it? Yeah, I think there's a kind of, because of the mix of bodybuilding in the gym world, where a lot of people are taking pre-workouts to kind of push through the next barrier, people naturally adopt that kind of lifestyle. But I just don't think it's that conducive to what we do as our sport, because it's very like, you do your lift, then you rest, you do your lift and then you rest. So I mean, I'd say I like coffee, but I wouldn't say there's not that much that's unusual with weightlifting. Like, as long as you're eating a wholesome diet, usually like 80% good stuff, and then 20% you can eat what you want. And especially if you're a heavier weightlifter and you're going for a weight class thing, people eat everything. A lot of the old school super heavyweights, they would eat as much greasy food as they can, and like the kind of, I know, beef dripping sandwiches and things like that. So it's all kind of, people struggle to keep weight on, ironically, compared to the other sports where it's like, you're eating your salad or something like that. And I think, for me, health's very important for the long term. So I think a well-rounded, nutritious diet is going to help you in the long term for the rest of your life, if we're looking like anti-cancer side of things. But then if you're looking for performance right now with weightlifting, I wouldn't say there's that much evidence to suggest a super healthy, super clean diet helps that much. Because a lot of the guys,
at the same time, you wouldn't be wanting to focus on aesthetics, because you need to be focusing on your performance.
Exactly. There's one coach that says if I can see a 2-pack's all right, but if I can see 6-pack, if you come into the gym, you're not eating enough, and he'll send you home from the gym because you're too aesthetic.
So is it a bit like rugby? Because I did a strength and conditioning course with a rugby coach, and he was teaching us that it's better to have more size because you've got more power behind you. Yeah,
I mean, there's a Russian weightlifter called Alexiev in the 70s, and I think he held about, I could be making this up, but I'm pretty sure it was like 100 world records or something like that, or it was close, maybe 60 to 100. That's a large amount of difference. By the way, there's a lot of world records, and he's known for positing the idea that fat surrounding the kind of muscle tissue and the bones provide support. So that's the kind of, what we tend to find is if a lifter's getting quite injured, if they move up a weight class and put a bit more mass on, whether that is muscle, whether that is fat, they generally find they'd get less injured because there is a bit of cushioning around the joints. And essentially, obviously, you're going to have a bit more muscle mass anyway just by going up in a weight class. So it's very unorthodox, you know, I would say. But, you know, weightlifters aren't in it for aesthetics so much. I think now we're getting a little bit more aesthetic side of things because obviously if you look better, there was a famous Russian weightlifter called Klokov and his rival Akayev. Akayev's body was horrific. It was a bit of a dad bod, but he was better than Klokov. But Klokov had a fantastic physique, and he did a lot of physique work to look better, and he was on like Celebrity Dancing on Ice in Russia, the diving program as well, and now he's pretty much amongst the CrossFit and weightlifting world like a well-known name. So he's done very well out of it because he looks like a superstar, he looks like an athlete, and the other guy just had no celebrity presence whatsoever, but even though he was the better weightlifter.
That's a shame. That's just the way of the world, isn't it? In any sport,
yeah.
Even in your dance that you were doing before, people will be chosen because of the way they look.
Well, yeah, I don't think he even wanted to be a celebrity, this guy, but it's hilarious to see the difference between the two. But don't get me wrong, like Klokov's still a fantastic lifter. We're talking a few kilos difference here. They're both pretty amazing what they've done in their training. Yeah, I mean, I would say on the whole, weightlifters don't give too much on the aesthetic side.
So, how much has genetics got to do with your strength and explosive power?
I think there's a lot of research suggesting that genes can kind of be switched on through your activity that you do as a kid. I've always done kind of sprinting, power side of sports. I am shorter anyway, so I would say that some people are just always going to be on the slow twitch side. You know, I can generally look at someone's biomechanics and the height of them and the way they move and kind of posit from that whether they'll make a good weightlifter. That's not to say they'll never be a good weightlifter, because weightlifting is more about the work you do in training rather than so much 100% genetics.
So can you tell if I'm slow twitch muscles?
You're pretty fast, right? Pretty fast.
Because everything I've ever done is slow,
yeah,
endurance.
It's wasted potential right there, you know. But you're coming into the sport now. You don't move slow, in my opinion. But I definitely think, I think culturally in the UK we really love marathons. You know, oh, Jenny's running a marathon this month, give her some money.
Oh, you know Jenny too.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just something we always think about, is like we've always glorified endurance training, which is created a kind of negative effect on the kind of popularity on power sports, because I think, you know, there's a difference in mentality between running for a long time and running as fast as you can, putting your heart and soul into that 10 seconds. So I think if the more people try these power sports, and I would say probably 80% of the people I coach weightlifting have come from doing Tough Mudders, doing marathons, doing triathlons, and they actually, in their heart, they actually love weightlifting. They wish they would have found it earlier because they get addicted to it, but it just wasn't something they was exposed to, you know. And I train loads of people that have all come from these endurance sports, and they're actually really powerful, but they've just done the wrong sport. If you're talking about genetic potential and stuff, if they would have done, you know, weightlifting younger, we would have had, you know, even more kind of progress in the country of people doing it. So it is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, definitely. And skill versus strength. How much of weightlifting is skill compared to strength?
Yeah, I know. I think a few years ago, like 3 years ago, I was convinced like it's all about the technique because I was strong and I just wasn't hitting the weights I wanted to. And then as the kind of time's gone on, my technique's got better, and then maybe I didn't push the strength as much as I should have. So with weightlifting, you'll never ever be too upset if you're strong. So if you can, there's a good correlation between how high your back squat is to how high your snatch and clean and jerk is. So we usually say about 80% of your back squat is your clean and jerk, and about 60% of your back squat is your snatch. So working from that, if you've got, say, your snatch is about 70% of your back squat, well, it probably means you've got very good technique, but your back squat needs to go higher. So it would be a limiting factor, your back squat. So if you don't have strength, you will really limit your lifts, your snatch, clean and jerk, no matter how good your technique is. However, if you don't have any technique, then it doesn't matter how strong you are, right? So You need both, but I would say the foundation for a lot of people, they need to get a lot stronger, and a lot of the people, like I said, that are coming from endurance sports generally are too weak in the back squat, but very, very efficient in the lifts, especially women, because they're usually quite flexible, so they can hit the positions, but the weight's kind of crushing them a bit. So, you know, it's I think it'd be better for people to do like a year's strength work and lighter on the lifts technique wise, rather than heavy lifts and less strength work, because you can get injured if you don't have a good foundation in the back squat and the deadlift.
How long do you think it will take to get really strong, build up strength, coming from like Jenny, the marathon?
Yeah. I think they'll have massive, we call them beginner gains. So when you actually begin the sport, you generally progress each week, which makes people think they'll be like world champion within a year, because if I can put on 10 kilos each week, that's fantastic. I think strength wise, you need to do like probably about 6 months to notice a kind of big difference in your strength, and then you're looking at probably 2 years to the next level, notch up in strength. If you've got a good coach, they'll kind of keep that stagnation away, so you'll always improve. But yeah, with the actual lifts, I think you're looking at 6 months to even get your head around the snatch, clean and jerk, and then once again like 2 years to feel like you even know them, and then you're looking at maybe 4 or 5 years before you feel like, okay, I can say I'm actually a weightlifter in the sport. So it's quite a long-term sport, even though they look on paper very simple, but I dare you to try and chuck 60 kilos above your head in one way. It's a very, very technical sport, even though I think people make it look very natural and easy when they do it.
Yeah, it looks so easy, and it's obviously not. So what kind of mindset do you think you have to be in before you train, and obviously competing as well, but obviously very different situations? Well,
another coach, like you were saying, which part is technique, which part is strength, another coach has said like weightlifting is 90% mental strength, which, I
think that's a bit steep.
Yeah, I think it's a bit too steep too, because but it always,
at the same time, if you are strong but your mind's not in it today, you might not be strong.
So a lot of people, I have to say, look, you've got this program, it might say you have to go heavy today, but guess what, if you've had a hard day at work or stressed or a bad sleep, it's not the day to do it, because you're more likely to get injured. You're more likely to, if you fail a lift, to be almost kind of depressed or something like that about it. Some weightlifters, do have a bit of a temper, but I would say, if in terms of being a high level athlete with weightlifting, mentality is the most important thing. Whether you grow it over the time or you start with it, that's why my biggest issue I have with the kind of students we have today that come and learn to weightlift is the kind of lack of exposure to kind of difficult sports mentally, like challenging sports, whether that's martial arts or even like extreme sports like skateboarding and parkour and things like that, where you're challenged, you might actually hurt yourself or your fear. Those kind of guys are fantastic. Even the rugby guys are a bit crazy, so they're usually quite good at picking it up. But if you start the sport coming from, you've just played a few friendly little sports, or you've just come from the gym, weightlifting is a complete difference, because people are terrified of chucking a weight above your head if it can land on you or something like that. And and I think the ability to overcome your fear is really important, because you're going to have to push through the wall and push through the kind of fear boundaries. And like I said, it's not a question of can you put the next foot forward to run for another hour. It's can you do that in a millisecond movement and just commit with all your effort into that movement. That's the challenge we want. So I found women with fantastic athletic potential, and I found men with fantastic athletic potential, but without the strong mindset to do the hard training, because weightlifting is really about 99% training in the gym, and then or not being able to put it together on the platform when you're out there under the pressure, or in front of the referee, in front of the audience, and on the stage, and frankly, the best people for weightlifting are the people that can perform when it matters in the competition, from a competitive point of view. Some people are just gym lifters, like lift massive weights in the gym and then can't put it together on the platform. There's a multitude of factors there, but I think, if you can get a strong-willed kid and with decent athletic potential, then you can get a fantastic weightlifter. And that's kind of what you've seen with, say, someone like Jack Oliver, who's essentially the best male lifter in the country. He's on all the physical tests they do, on the jumps, on medicine ball throws and plyometric stuff, where they test like how much kind of power can this guy produce. He was I think one of the lowest. I think he was like lower than some of the females as well. But he's snatched the British record and he's came 10th in the Olympics. So it's quite funny. It's more about his work ethic. It's so high, and mentality is crazy. If you ever meet him, he's a bit like a robot. He can have pain, but he can power through. He can be tired, he can power through, and it's all about the discipline in his mind. And that's the years of training he's had.
It's really interesting you say all that, and that's one of the reasons I'm really attracted to it. I just think it's all about the mind, really. Do you have to get yourself into like a positive state, and when you're actually doing a competition, like a lot of sports, do you have to visualise it before it happens?
Yeah, so I really struggle. Like I've been in a competition, and I've missed my first snatch or second snatch, and my coach has been like, what's wrong? And I was like, I can't actually visualise the lift. I can't see it happening, and I can't feel it. And if you can't feel it, you're in trouble. So with lifting, that's why I really recommend people just watch videos and repeat and try and get it into your mind and visualise the success of the lift. So that's why I think a lot of people who are erring on the side of kind of troubles in their life, whether it's home life or just kind of like work and things like that, if that's a negative side of things, weightlifting can be a fantastic escape. But also if weightlifting goes badly, then it all kind of crumbles in. So you tend to find people that go through a hard time while they're training weightlifting, they tend to almost back away from lifting because of the kind of negative side of things. So I think someone who can
So you think it's better to control your emotions?
Yeah, I think weightlifting can really provide a platform for you to be able to overcome your fears, and if you are successful, then you're in a fantastic position to actually be more positive than ever before, to see you face adversity and come out from it with success, with a medal, or with a qualification to a bigger competition, something like that. Even in the gym, if you set yourself a goal of, I'm going to clean and jerk my body weight, and you do it, then you know what, anything else in your life you can challenge. There's not much else that can throw at you, through hard training and doing a kind of hard movement like that. That's something that I think can transfer into the rest of your life.
So just on that note then, because I don't think we answered that in the question before about how do you know when you're good? As in, is that a good marker then, cleaning and jerking your body weight?
Yeah, I think we notch it up in goals. We were going to do little prizes for Brunel. We were going to say, right, okay, if you do a clean and jerk with your body weight as the first goal.
First goal?
Yeah, as the kind of first, build-up goal. How far are you off?
Don't know what I weigh. Smashed my scales.
Yeah, I mean, I would say from the male perspective, to be taken seriously, the first step would be to snatch your body weight.
Saying that, it probably wouldn't be that far, because I did lift 51, didn't I?
Yeah, I don't think you're that far.
I estimate that I weigh about 62, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not that far from what you've done, but you did good technique as well. So it's just build it up slowly. You'll be there within no time. So I'd say that. Yeah, we don't generally say snatch body weight for women because it's just a slightly different ball game, long term kind of thing. Snatching body weight as a future goal is definitely fantastic and achievable. But snatching more like 80% of your body weight or something like that is probably quite a good goal. But yeah, I'd say for the men, the next step would be to snatch 100 kilos. But clean and jerk wise, like 1.5 your body weight is pretty good. And quite hard to get to. But there's qualification totals. So if you are quite athletic and you've got a bit of fire in you, I'd really look at go on britishweightlifting.org and look at the qualification totals. I think you have to click on the competitions tab, and then it's got the qualification procedures, and they've got all the lists of what you need what weights we call them totals. When you add your best snatch and best clean and jerk together, that's your total. And then you can have a little look and see what what would I snatch? And you generally snatch less than you clean and jerk. There's no one who does the same. And then you add them together, and then you have a goal. So, you know, for 77 kilos, that's my body weight category. The qualification total for the biggest championships in Britain is 254. So if you can do 254 is like the ultimate, say, training goal from a career perspective if you started a bit later. And then below that is the English Championships at 233, I think, 233 kilos total. And then below that you've got the London South East Regional Championships. That's 225, I think, at the moment. And then if I'm an age group category, you've got, say, the British under-23s or juniors or youth championships, and they're even lower. So you've got stepping stones all the way up. If you're over 35, you've got the British Masters as well. So if you go on, just Google British Masters weightlifting, and they've got qualification totals there. And a lot of people have a fantastic time. They start weightlifting quite late, but they even end up going to the European or World Championships and competing for their country. And apparently they all have a great time out there.
So let's come back to that right after the news.
91.8 Hayes FM.
Local
Weightlift, because I was just asking Kristian off air about the accessory training, and we mentioned before squats. Can we just go straight into squats? Like, what is the difference between doing a front squat and a back squat, and what should the weight differences be?
So the back squat itself is kind of, I would say, the meat and potatoes of all weightlifting. So if you only got 20 minutes to exercise, doing back squats all round, you know, a lot of the people believe that doing squats is kind of such a strong core workout in itself, let alone leg strength one, because the time and attention and how strong your core has to stay. But, you know, from a competitive standpoint, doing only back squat hasn't really, you need to do the accessory work with the core. But it really help your pulling strength, because it strengthens your hamstrings, quads, lower back, abs as well. So it's all round movement. The thing with the front squat is you put it on the front of your shoulders, not on your hands, like on the front of your shoulders with your fingertips on it. You're going to load the front of your legs a lot more, so the quads, and keep your back a lot more upright. So you're going to get less hamstring usage than you would in the back squat. So it's quite a good, bodybuilders will use it to build the front of their legs up from an aesthetic point of view. I think the front squats are fantastic for core as well. So if you want to get a six-pack and get bigger and stronger, the front squats are really going to help. I think they're fantastic for everyone, though, in terms of posture. You have to keep very upright. You have to be quite mobile with it. So they're a great exercise for that. But in terms of the difference between the weight, generally you'd expect maybe a gap of about 20 to 30 kilos. Maybe if your back squat's less, it'd probably be about 10 to 15 kilos difference. But say if you back squat like 100, you'd expect your front squat to be around 75 kilos. My back squat's like 205, and then my front squat's 185.
So when they're even, you need to do more of one.
yeah, exactly. And if your front squat's more than your back squat, then you've got some serious issues in your back strength, I'd say.
So in terms of flexibility, is everybody able to do weightlifting, or do they need to do some kind of flexibility strengthening first, like maybe the back?
I think everyone should be doing some sort of like kind of stability exercises, whether you go to Pilates or you go to yoga. Essentially the foundational movements that I would say you'd need to check out before you even start is, can you do a bodyweight lunge? So can you, for example, just stand there, step forward with one leg and touch that knee to the floor? If you can do that, fantastic. And then I would say, can you squat all the way down without any body weight on your back? If you can't, you might have to, say, for example, find small little plates to get under your heels. That might help with some ankle flexion. But if you've got knee tracking issues, say your knees kind of go on the inside of your toes when you squat down, or women tend to lean their kind of knees on the inside anyway, especially when they stand up, and that can create problems through your knees. So we really want those knees tracking in line with those toes.
Isn't that glute work?
Yeah, a lot of glute work can help, but I also think it's just a cultural thing. Like, women sit with their knees together anyway. So I don't think a lot of people don't even realise that you shouldn't have your knees. Your knees are a hinge joint; they're not like some ball and socket ready to roll around. So I think a lot of people don't realise that they should be in line. But yeah, definitely glute work for a lot of people that can't do it.
And you're saying like squatting right the way down to the floor. It's one thing being able to do that without any weight, and then it's another even with your arms over your head.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do you improve the flexibility of your back to be able to squat with overhead?
Yeah, I think yoga is fantastic for that. Just that you don't have to go to a yoga class. You just need to Google, simple yoga poses and stretches, like the pigeon pose, for example, that stretches your glute when your kind of leg folds in front of you. That movement there is really going to help kind of reducing your amount of strain pulling on your knee, but also just kind of open up your hips a bit more. Just even if I think everyone should be working on the splits, even if your not aim is to do the full splits, but doing the position where you've got a separation between your front leg and your back leg, so it opens up your hip and it opens up your hamstring. And especially coming from football, if anyone is from football, your hamstrings are usually horrific. So you'll really find that kind of frees up your hips and releases your lower back. And even if you sit down at the office, it's a fantastic stretch to do. So those kind of basics, I don't know how, but they're not that basic, but I'd definitely say the foundational stretches will really help kind of mobilise the area. But I mean, dynamic stretching is fantastic, right? So doing a lot of like leg swings in front of you, behind and out to the side. There's a simple one I do, a bit too hard to explain on the radio, but it's a really good exercise that doesn't require much flexibility to do, but creates a lot of flexibility. And that's how I warm up. So when we trained the 73-year-old woman, Nanny Bren, she couldn't just roll around on the floor like we do. Couldn't do yoga on the floor because it's quite a lot of effort. But she could hold onto a pole and just kind of use that to balance herself. And then we'd do a bunch of kind of dynamic stretches, and it'd really get her mobilised for the session without having to kind of risk any kind of they bruise like a peach, don't they? So
So who is this Nanny lady? I think I've seen her in a video at CrossFit before.
Yeah, so we you've met Dan Wheeler, haven't you? So
online, yeah.
Yeah, so his wife now, they got married the other day. Congratulations. They her nan doesn't really do any exercise so much. She's she does the walking and things like that. But me and myself and Dan were really interested in kind of resistance training and weightlifting for the over 50s because of the benefits. So post menopause and stuff, the osteoporosis onset and things like that. It's a really important thing to do if you want to avoid the kind of decay in the physicality. So he wanted to really try and see if we could kind of do like a 12-week program to deliver the Olympic weightlifting movements as a kind of end to the program. For me, it's more about the build up to kind of doing the Olympic lifts rather than the Olympic lifts themselves, because snatch, clean and jerk is quite complicated, and we're talking about foundational strength like the squat, deadlift, lunges, shoulder press, probably more beneficial. So he came to me and said, would you be able to train my girlfriend's nan, essentially, because she's really up for it. So when she first came, she couldn't even do a lunge at all. So I thought, oh God. But she worked so hard in the homework that she did, stretching she did every day, and she was quite amazing, really. By the end, she deadlifted 70 kilos.
Wow.
She snatched, I think, 22 kilos, and clean and jerk 25.
Wow.
She was 74, so she aged.
So had she done exercise before? She was just a beginner?
No, she did ballet as a kid, and I think that might have been why she was such a freak athlete. But she's mind-blowing to me because she improved as fast as any young person, which shows how well the body responds to resistance training, no matter what age you are. People think, oh, I'm too old for it. It's more about the intensity you do it at and what exercises you choose. But everyone will notice a benefit. And I think the feeling you get, she said she's never felt her legs be so toned in her whole life, and to hear that from a 74-year-old is pretty big time. So she had a massive transformation just in that short time, but that's because she loved doing it. It was something new, and it was also good for her brain, right? Because as you get older, less challenges. It's a technical sport, so she was thinking about it all the time, and she was working hard, and it was fantastic to see. But I couldn't believe the way she could move. I honestly thought we'd be doing, if she couldn't lunge at the first day, I thought, well, it's going to be it'd be good to get a lunge by the end of the week.
Did you have like video diaries or anything?
Yeah. I mean, we've got some great videos. If you go on Life Changing Fitness, they should be on there. Definitely on the social media, on the Instagram.
I'm going to get all of these links off you later on, because I will upload all this to a podcast as well, so then I can leave all the links so everyone can go and check out all the things you've spoken about.
Awesome.
But I just think, wow, to that nanny.
I know.
What was she thinking one day, and she woke up and thought, well, I want to do weightlifting now.
I know. She got us a nice card and I think a bottle of wine to say thanks by the end as well, because she was, mind blown, I think, as well, by how great she felt by the end of it, how much easier it was to walk upstairs. And just day-to-day life was so much better, and that's something I'm so I'm really interested in developing, because I just think 50 is kind of the new 40, and 60 the new 50. So with that, people are so much more active than they used to be. Say my nan's generation, where they stopped doing exercise when they were 15. It's just been like walking and for the rest of their life. So it's great to see so many people are realising that you don't grow old because you're just getting older. You grow old because you stop doing things, you stop moving around. And weightlifting's got all the evidence that it helps you live longer. There's a study done on the thicker your thighs in terms of muscle, the longer you live, because you're more likely to avoid breaking your bones when you fall over, and less likely to fall over. So my nan fell over when she won bingo the other day. She clipped her foot on the chair and just fell over, smashed her knee. It's those kind of silly accidents that can end up crippling you. You haven't given yourself a walking stick. So
bingo's dangerous.
Exactly, it is. That's what I said. I said, don't stop winning, man. She always wins. And it was like she only won some toilet paper, I think. 12 rolls of toilet paper.
It's all about the winning.
But my coach is 75 years old, and he still goes to the gym. Yeah, and he's got like a six-pack still hanging around there. So he's the perfect example of you keep moving. And he's never had an operation or anything, and he did competitive weightlifting till he was 30, 33, 34. So.
But I do love that we're having this discussion, because a lot of people look at me and see my various injuries and think, or they say to me, well, Nicola, it's because you're doing this and that, you shouldn't be doing so much. And then obviously you can overtrain, but like you're saying, exercise is beneficial to you, and longevity of your age and your body and everything. I think it's just a case of learning, because when you are younger and you have that mindset of doing more, you sometimes need to listen to your body more rather than let your mind take over. And it's a balance, isn't it? Working out what's right for your body, what muscles are in balance compared to the other ones, and so on.
Yeah, I think there's a lot where you just think, I saw it coming. I should have, when I hurt my shoulder a few weeks ago, when I woke up in the morning, I had a really heavy week. I got some PBs on the Tuesday, trained on the Wednesday, trained on I was coming in on the Thursday, and I was in the shower and I couldn't put my hand behind my back. And like any normal person would have thought, wow, serious issue. But I thought, it's fine, just warm it up. And then I got severe bursitis on that session that day. So the warning signs was there. That was the time I should have listened to my body, definitely. But I always thought, with weightlifting from a competitive standpoint, I'm trying to be as good as I can, trying to get as high as I can, and hopefully compete internationally. That's something where you have to always push that 5% further than you probably want to, or maybe should, as a gamble to see if you can get to that next level. And that's what the competitive guys are. For people from a health perspective, I really think listening to your body is like the most important thing going, because you have to separate your mental worry from the physical worry, of course. But it's at the end of the day, it's not worth it, is it? You can come in tomorrow, you can do it. That's what I'm saying. If you've got something where you really want to do a personal best today, well, if you don't feel great, come in tomorrow. If one bit's a bit stiff, just do it the next day. If you do that every single day, then you're cheating yourself. But I have found that certain times you need times off of weightlifting, you need times off to do body weight stuff and relax. And I think Nicola's feeling that right now. Is she trained quite hard at the start, and then it's just that little reset time. Some weightlifters do a solid month, 2 months off, because their body and mind just needs a reset. Your kind of nervous system's just had it. And I think there was a big issue with the build up for the athletes for the 2012 Olympics in the UK, is that we had the funding for these athletes to train full time, but we just couldn't. The athletes couldn't handle it. A lot of them, and there wasn't much progress in the last 6 months. The 6 months build up to the Olympics, you'd expect the most progress, but because the training program was so hard and the pressure was high and the ability to recover just wasn't there, they actually there wasn't much progress in that last thing. And ironically, they said the guy who was best and improved the most was the bloke who said he was injured and used to skip loads of sessions and come in and PB because he's had a few days rest.
That happens a lot. We're going to come back and talk about that right after the break, and I also want to talk to you about the programming, periodising and everything else to avoid all these injuries. So
Hayes FM.
Great West London.
Welcome back. Because I was going to say to you, I had a very interesting conversation with somebody recently, and they said, if you're a normal person, you know, even a fitness instructor, somebody who's quite athletic, but you're not an athlete, and you were saying, obviously, you want to get the best for your sport because you are an athlete. If you're not an athlete, you don't have to push yourself to beyond pain, and that you should be listening to your body because the athletes are the ones that get the rewards and you don't.
Yeah. I mean, if you work a normal job or something, you've really hurt your knee, and you can barely walk around at work, I mean, you're going to suffer the whole week, you know. For me, I'll take the risk. You know, it's bad. I coach weightlifting obviously as a job, but you know, worst case, someone can demonstrate and I can talk through it, which I've had to do with my shoulder. But you know, I think I see from a parkour perspective, it was a sport I was doing for myself. So we always listened to our body because there was no pressure really to kind of push it to that level because we're all quite sane, really, as crazy as people might think the sport is. We're still trying to be healthy, and we're actually trying to survive. So sports that are kind of, you know, less competitive and don't have that competitive environment, and keep away from that. But I think if you're doing weightlifting, then you're looking at your friends on social media and seeing what they're doing, and you want to push further, even if you're not competing to that high level. And I think that's what you see with CrossFit, is such a high competitive side between the box. They'll post like the scoreboard of the workout of the day, who's got this time, and people will push themselves to a level that is probably not best for them. And so you see a lot of people come to me and they say, look, I really want to learn weightlifting properly because you know, I've slipped a disc, or I've got a bulged disc, and I can't even, I'm just recovering from that, and I really want to learn the technique properly now. You know, they should have never got to that point in the first place, because you know, it's something that will upset the rest of their life, let alone just the sport. So yeah, I think it's really important to realise that you know, you've got your whole life to do the sport, and unless you've got specific goals and deadlines, like there's no point really injuring yourself over something like that, because it should be a sport that promotes the health. And weightlifting has I think one of the lowest injury rates out of all sports, as contrary to what people believe. You know, you only really see the top level injuries like an elbow snap or world record weights, rather than, I've never seen anyone hurt their elbow really, apart from a short kind of slight dislocation due to bad technique, and being hypermobile. But yeah, generally it's, you know, it's a very safe sport. It's lower than a lot of other team sports. You know, things like rugby, football, everyone's, you know, contact sports, you're having problems.
So talking of the sport and being an athlete and winning, what is the reward other than trophies and glory?
Well, we did a demonstration at a competition, myself and Noreen Ghulam, who competes for GB, a kind of a local in-house CrossFit box on the weekend, and we had a Q&A there, and we kind of, people asked about funding. They said, what funding is there? And you know, there's essentially none. There's none now. UK Sport have taken it away. Sport England have bonked up British weightlifting and provided quite a lot of money to save us, really. But it means there's almost none on the elite side of the sport. So there's not really a financial reward in that sense. You know, maybe if you win something big time, you can rely on sponsorship of, or, you know, companies or adverts or something like that. But it's very unlikely people are going to want to really sponsor weightlifters in the same way they might sponsor a tennis player. So because the cultural connotations just aren't as, you know, desirable as say tennis. So people, I would say every weightlifter I've met that has been in the sport for a while, they do it because they love the sport itself. They love doing it, and they love hard training and being challenged every day. And you know, one of the coaches said to me, he said, look, the only reason we do this sport is to have have fun trips around the world. And these are the top level guys, so they get to go to world championships, and weightlifting world championships are always in strange places. Last year it was in Houston, Texas, which is the first time it's been in America for I think maybe 50 years or something ridiculous. But before that it was in Kazakhstan. Obviously you had Rio Olympics. I think generally it's in Turkey, then it's in Asia, and so you generally find that it's a fantastic experience. Obviously if you're training, if you're out there for 10 days and you're in a heavier weight class, you're generally not going to be able to go anywhere for quite a few days. But people have fantastic trips around the world, and they even training camps and stuff are great experiences. So I think.
Have you travelled?
Yeah, so we do training holidays abroad, beaches and barbells. So with that, we run camps in Cyprus, Barcelona, and if my coach was a bit younger, we would have done a lot more, because in his past he used to take away teams to kind of local competitions. But we're going back out to Cyprus in November to compete in the Pan Cypriot Championships. And recently teams went out to Lille in France. They have a really good kind of memorial tournament out there. Another club coach, he took his guys out to Switzerland recently. So I think that's what people love, is the ability to kind of compete in a new area, and we all it's such a small sport that you basically share. Because I was recently in Mallorca, and we met up with Antonio Martinez, and he was a fantastic old school weightlifter, but now he's a coach out there, and he was the most shredded physique I've ever seen on a 45-year-old man. If I had his physique now, I'd be pretty happy. And he when I spoke to him, I said, do you want any how much is today to train at the gym? And he's like, no, it's weightlifting family, because his English wasn't great, and he's like, weightlifting family, and that's all he said. And that's kind of the mentality, is when you can share an interest. And I found that with parkour you bond quite closely, but I find weightlifting is even closer, because it's such a niche sport. A lot of people kind of seen parkour, but I'd say most people don't even know. If you ask them what weightlifting is, they'll be like bench press, deadlift, I don't know, they wouldn't really know. So it's kind of like a secret club, I would say.
So let's talk about firstly gaining strength, and what kind of periodized program would you recommend for people, from a beginner?
So a lot of beginners use a program called 531, Jim Wendler's thing, which I'm sure you might have heard of. But I think it's too easy, but it's basically one that's easy to follow. You won't really get injured, and it progresses really, really steadily. I would say it takes too long, and it doesn't push you hard enough, and it doesn't adapt around the thing. But it's a good one to do if you're unsupervised, you're by yourself. You can just Google 531 Jim Wendler. And I've also heard a lot of people use Mark Ripto's starting strength thing. He advocates a low bar back squat, which isn't very athletic, so I don't really recommend that one. But both of those, I'd say a lot of people use those to start off on the strength training kind of brigade, and then from there they find other things. Really, I would say sticking to maybe 3 times a week if you're going to do it to begin with. Say one day might be a full strength day, you just work on your squats, and then do technique on the lighter lifts, and then another day you might do a heavy deadlifts and then technique on the lifts again, and then on the third day you do assistance exercises like Romanian deadlift, overhead squats, single arm pressing, things like that, and then from there you kind of have what we call linear progression with regards to the weight that you use. So you start off maybe with a rate of perceived exertion like a 6 out of 10, so you shouldn't be killing yourself, because you really want your body to slowly adapt.
Which is hard to have a rate of perceived exertion if you're used to endurance sports.
Yeah, exactly. So it's something that you kind of learn over time. You probably need to have an idea of...
Does it actually correlate to the heart rate, though, if you had a heart rate monitor on?
No, not so much. Not with the heart rate. It's tough, because obviously it depends on your fitness level. I'd say the best thing you could do is maybe use go on Google and type in 1 rep max calculator. So during your first, say maybe second week, once you've tried all the movements, see what you can do for 3 reps. Whether you need a spotter there to make sure you're safe when you're doing it. see what you can do for 3 reps. You're less likely to get injured doing 3 reps, and then use the online calculator to calculate your 1 rep max, and then you can work out percentages. Because with strength training, you want to work between 70 to 85%. If you're below 70%, you're not really going to get any strength benefit, which is what the problem with a lot of people, the way people train, is they don't use the principle of like overload progression. So you tend to find people go, I can do a plank for 5 minutes now. Well, obviously, if you can do it for 5 minutes, it's not hard enough, and same with the squats. If you can do 50 reps with the empty bar, it's not heavy enough. And that's the problem with like that 100-day squat challenge is once you've got a basic level, your body actually stops adapting. And weightlifting and training in general, fitness training, is always not about doing the same routine every time. If you want to get progress, you have to move it forward. So with weightlifting, you might start off 70%, and then the next week you try 2.5 kilos heavier, 5 kilos heavier, see how it goes, and stay within that range. If you end up going above 90%, especially as a beginner, you're going to struggle with regards to form and safety. It's something more intermediate and advanced lifters should be hanging around. So for me, I did my first probably 2 years, I just did 5 sets of 3 or 5 sets of 5 on squats or deadlifts, even like weighted pull-ups, and I had fantastic progress. So when I started weightlifting, I could back squat I think 150, and then within 2 months of pushing the percentages up, doing more heavy singles and doubles, I went up to 170 in 2 months. So that progress was because of my foundation, not because of the percentage I was doing. So and I would say 1 rep max is like doing a single lift is a performance of your ability, but not actually improving your ability.
So squatting with like 100 and over is, surely it took a long time to even get to that weight, didn't it?
100 kilos. I could do 110
when you first started.
Yeah, my very first day I tried it.
Why would you do that? You started the Olympic lifting with a broomstick, and then you went into squatting with 100.
Yeah, it was my friends. I had started maybe a month before me.
But you wouldn't recommend that, would you?
No, but it was so easy. I mean, I don't know if I could walk for 3 days, but yeah, I don't know, because of parkour I had such a strong power kind of thing. But yeah, we went to St Mary's, and my friends were like, we'll try out this box squatting, and then I think I did we went up and I could do it could do all the movements as easy as them, even though they'd been doing it for a few weeks before me, and so I ended up just trying 110 I think on the first day. But yeah, I definitely I mean, some guys I know, there's one guy who could deadlift 200 kilos with no training in his first day, just crazy stuff. But yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I'd recommend doing 5 sets of 5, somewhere, and just the 4th and 5th rep should be a little bit heated. So with that, doing what one coach calls it is putting reps in the bank. So you do 5 sets of 5 1 week, and then the next week you do 5 sets of 5 again, or 5 sets of 3, or we don't really go over five reps because it's strength work. So you're eventually cashing the reps in at the bank by the end of the program. So maybe after 5-6 weeks you want to try heavier and go for some a heavy set of 2 or a heavy set of 1, and then drop down. Maybe you can do your volume, you can do that, but for the first few weeks I would definitely not recommend maxing out. There's not much benefit in it.
Let's talk about having a coach. Obviously, I've told people on air that you're my coach. I said that you were coming in last week. You have a coach, and I believe every coach needs a coach. Obviously, I coach people. What would you say is the importance of having a coach?
Well, obviously, I've spoken about it lots, about the ego side of things, knowing when you shouldn't push too far. And I think especially when you begin, you literally have no idea how far is too far, or how far it's not. It's not far enough. So just from a external eyes during your training, it's really important, because you're going to be able to do a lift, and then a good coach should be able to sense how much more you could do, or whether it's worth it doing it today in reference to maybe the next training session. When with yourself, your ego might take over. You might think, today's the day I'm going to max out, even though you might have a competition in a week. I've got a competition on Saturday, so today is just, when I go training, is just a kind of run-in, and kind of ticking over. So if I was by myself, when I used to train by myself, I used to lose the plot and want to max out a week before a competition. So I think a coach is really important for that side of things. The other
Is that
thing,
because mentally you feel like you want to know that you can do those weights?
yeah, exactly. So you a lot of guys be like, I really want to get this weight because then I know when I go to competition I can do it. But obviously, you know, you cash those reps in early, then you might be too fatigued on the day, because to ask your body to perform at 100% or get that personal best, you can't do that every week. Generally, when you're a beginner, you can more do it. You could probably hit your PB every session, but as you get more advanced, it's just not something you can do. The other thing is really seeing, like what I referred to earlier as the plateaus. So when I look at an athlete and the way we're going to develop it, I can kind of see and predict problems that are going to occur. So we had one athlete who didn't really use his hamstrings much during the pull. He was kind of really upright, and so I said to him, he was very new and very strong. His progress was fantastic. I said to him, you need to really work on that hamstring strength, because it is his weak point, and that's just going to add kilos. So instead of him stagnating and me ignoring it just because he's progressing now, I'm looking at this progress in a few months' time. And that's what a coach can really do, as well as obviously spotting injuries, and helping you in reference to your goals, achievable goals, as well as long-term and short-term. A good coach should be able to spot those and grow with you. And it really annoys me when a coach isn't willing to take the athlete to their potential and where they want to go. So if an athlete wants to compete and your coach doesn't want to do competitions, then you probably need to find a new coach. And that coach should be in a position where they think, right, okay, you've outgrown me, let's go on to the next coach. And that's something I took from my coach, is he said to me, go where you need to go to get where you need to be, and where you want to be. So it's not an ownership thing. It's a love for the athlete to do their best, and get to their best level, rather than about the coach themselves.
And coming from a PT background where I spot everything with my clients, why do weightlifters never spot each other?
Well, you're alone on the platform in the competition anyway, right? So no one else. But
like when I see them doing back squats, they never spot them. Obviously you see people helping people with back squats, and they're like hugging them from the back, and then you guys just leave yourself and then just jump out the way. That just looks so scary. How do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, it's learning to safely bail. Like we did it in parkour. The most important thing in parkour was to learn how to fall from a jump safely, or catch yourself. So weightlifting is the same thing, learning to drop a snatch safely, move out the way of a jerk safely, as well as being able to bail out of a squat that you haven't made safely. So with weightlifters, because we use high bar, where the bar is quite higher on your shoulders and you've got a really good posture, so your chest upright, if you don't make the squat, you actually just sit down straight, and then you can just throw it off your back and jump forward. But you have to be comfortable sitting in the bottom position. Whereas a lot of people in gyms that have spotters, like some big bodybuilding bloke, he's not actually comfortable at the bottom. He'll probably get injured, so he needs that guy to save him and spot him. So the only reason you'd probably squat in back squat in weightlifting is if you knew it was really on the limit and the person might not be safe going back down. So if it's a really, really heavy weight in the bottom position. But you're probably better off having people on either sides of the weight, because then the person behind, if he does throw it off without some bad communication, you can end up, which has happened, people drop the weight onto the person on the knees or something behind them, which is probably more painful than anything else. So it's just independence with weightlifting, and you're training so much, right? You're doing squats every day, so you can't have a spot for everything. But generally, like I very rarely squat to a point I know I'm going to fail it anyway. I mean, you saw it the other day when I threw it off my back on that video.
Yeah, see, that looks scary. That's
I thought I would make that. I didn't think I would fail that weight, basically. But because my back's so strong, I don't feel like there's any danger with regards to endurance on my back. So when I'm standing up, I can grind and hold that position. Then if I don't make it, I can just squat back down and throw it off. So yeah, I'd probably say it's a bit of experience. But if you're new to it, I'd reckon if I'm training someone and it's a client, I'd definitely spot them. So yeah, I mean, it's just something part of the culture, and also, like I said, with powerlifting, if you have a low bar back squat, your chest is more at risk, so you're more likely to fold forward, which is my worst nightmare, I'd say. So yeah, you probably need a spot for powerlifting style squats.
So have you done powerlifting as well?
No, not from a I never do low bar or anything. No, so that even if I competed in powerlifting, I would do my standard squat.
And do you ever get scared to lift a certain weight? Like, did you ever experience getting stuck on certain weights for years? Like, you know, when you get that mental number and you can't go beyond it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, like, 100 snatch was always annoying in my head, especially in training. Like, in competition, I would go for it, so it doesn't really matter what the weight is in competition. I'll give it a crack. I'd say, 100 snatch, and then 145 clean and jerk was an annoying one from a clean perspective in training, because when you come out of the clean, once it's landed on your shoulders and you're front squatting it up, it takes a lot out of you. So your back can get tired, and then if your back gets tired, you lose that kind of your breath a bit. It takes the breath out of you and your chest. So when you have to jerk, you feel like you can barely breathe and it's crushing you. So yeah, I mean that's something that's probably been an annoying number. But I mean, snatch is my biggest technical issue. So really, it's just the confidence from me when I grab that bar and I think, right, I'm going to let this technique work. If I can't feel the technique, that's a big issue. But compared to parkour, weightlifting's never been that scary, really. You know, it's not. You know, the risk of a bar where I'm in control feels very different than, like, kind of letting myself go into a jump and
you could fall.
Yeah, but you know, I definitely find some people you can see it in their eyes, because we were talking about people being scared to, like, you know, just picking the bar up and then not committing. I've never done that. You know, I've just never just picked it up and think, no. When I grab the bar, I go for it. You watch people like me doing that, and you're like, what's wrong with her? No, I can see it at the beginning, because I've kind of thrown you in, right? I don't. When we train, I don't. You know, I'll pick a weight that is pushing you a bit anyway. So I empathise with that definitely, but. The top level guys, like, we had 2 guys in our team, and they're both known for they'll set up, they'll be screaming around, like, trying to psych themselves up, pacing back and forth, and they'll grab the bar, someone will be filming it, everyone's watching in the gym, and then they'll just deadlift it and drop it because they're too scared of it. And I can't empathise with that. I don't understand how you could get so hyped and still not commit, you know. But that's the way people's brains work, is a bit different.
Is that because you've gone up steadily with your weights?
I think it's because I know the tipping point where you have to commit, where your brain says, I am going to do this. I do that before the lift, like I'd had to do with parkour. You do it before you start running for the jump, because you can't decide you're going to jump during the run up. Whereas with weightlifting, you can almost get away with grabbing your hands on the bar and start moving and then decide, and that's too late. It's too late then, for me, in my opinion, because you have to commit from the floor.
I feel like you've got such benefit that you did parkour beforehand and you were so young, which obviously people who are younger are fearless, like children, like even doing roly-polies, an adult is always upright, yeah. So to then put their head upside down is a big issue. So the older you get, obviously the harder it is for the mental thing. So I did want to ask you about that, because I know that you ride a motorbike as well, which is something quite scary. It's very dangerous out there.
Yeah, it's been raining.
Do you have a thing for like fearful, or not fearful, but where you put yourself in danger?
Yeah, I think there's a documentary done once by Tim Sheaf on his parkour experience, and it was quite a good piece what he said with regards to, we're not, you know, and this is in relation to motorcycling, with parkour, with weightlifting. We're not looking for the thrill. We're not looking for a feeling like we've narrowly escaped death. We're looking for the feeling of calmness in all those activities, of control of those scenarios in which most people might deem to be, you know, scary or like kind of adrenaline rush. You're actually looking for the resting heart rate in that scenario. So if I can snatch, you know, 120 kilos and be in control, and the technique goes smoothly, stand up, finish, that's what I want, you know. That's what,
with the resting heart rate.
Yeah, because that's when you know you're really in control of it, versus having to be like terrified out of your mind. You know, that's not the thrill.
Have they done that, like, scientifically, like had people's heart rate checked?
They had Guy Martin rode around the TT in the Isle of Man, which is the road racing one, the one where, like, I think several people die each year. You heard of the Isle of Man TT? It's definitely worth a watch. So they basically cut off the the island and might set a circuit up on the streets.
So you obviously like this type of stuff because you're googling it.
I would never do it. I'd never do it. No, it's a big thing. It's on TV every year, and people travel from all over the world to come watch the TT because it's like the only race still going, right? Because they banned road racing in the UK because of obvious dangerous reasons. But they put a heart rate monitor on him, and his heart rate was so low the whole time. Like, it was just normal, like there's nothing going on there for the whole race. And we're talking guys that the average speed, I think, is like 180 miles an hour or something nuts. It's so fast. He's in control of the scenario because his body's got used to it. So is he not
experiencing adrenaline?
No.
You don't get that then.
No, but they put a rookie on the bike and sent him round, and his was like so high, you know, because the adrenaline affects your concentration, you know, and you make bad decisions. So where's the thrill then? Where's the thrill? Yeah, exactly. Being able to do it.
So your thrill is afterwards, I've achieved that weight.
Yeah, but I mean the motorcycling is mainly transport as well, because I think we're in Hayes, right? It's a horrific traffic at the wrong time of day.
So we are coming up towards the end of the interview. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Barbells of Beachy? Because obviously that's your company that you started, and the podcast that you do as well.
Yeah, so we started in, like, on paper it's 3 years ago, but it's been like 2 years of our main holidays. So when the funding was lost in weightlifting, I really wanted to find a way that we can set up a privatised way to support these top level athletes in the UK. So what we do is we send some of the top lifters in the UK. Like, we recently just had Emily Godley go away to Cyprus to coach for a week, and we had a fantastic week of training there. And in return she got her warm weather training paid for. So her build up to the British Championships, which is a qualifier for the Commonwealth Games, means she actually got some good training out there as well. So with that, we kind of connect the top level guys with everybody, so you can join us. We also run London weightlifting weekends, so we have 2 days of training in central London, and this time we've got Chris Freebury, who's a Commonwealth GB lifter, snatched 130 kilos at 69 kilos body weight. He's coaching the weekend in Holborn, the Performance Ground, on the 5th and 6th of August. And then we also run coaching qualifications too for British weightlifting, so we're running a level 2 coaching course this month as well. So we really just wanted to connect the top guys with everybody else, because a lot of people don't know where they can meet them, and with all our stuff we try and use the best and most elite coaches we can. And we're even doing a CrossFit holiday as well in September with James St. Ledger, who's the top 0.2% in the world in CrossFit. So that's basically our goal, really, is to use the best and provide real training rather than any sort of like people who claim to be experts and haven't spent the time in the sport, and that's really what, with a sport so technical like Olympic lifting, I think everyone really benefits from guys that have done it for years. And I really enjoy the people we meet because everyone's so hungry to learn. So it's been great fun running it. Oh, and the podcast side of things, yeah, we basically we're not as regular as Nicola is here, so we do a podcast with our coaches, and when we're away on our holidays. So you can find us on our YouTube channel, just YouTube Beaches and Barbells, as well as we use Spreaker, which is an app to upload it there. So I mean, you don't even need to download the app, but you can just do it on the internet and listen to it. So it's a great insight into, hopefully I give a good interview. But the guys are fantastic because you very rarely get to hear from the best in our country, really, because it's such a closed, quiet sport, and gives you a good insight, and everyone's quite fun, I think.
Yeah, and we were just saying before, there's a lot of American podcasts, isn't there? So you don't really get to hear from your local people, and this is Hayes FM, and obviously you're from this area, so it's great. Lastly, tell us about your competition on Saturday.
Sunday. Or do you mean last Saturday?
No, your competition this Saturday.
Yeah, this Saturday. Yeah, so it's on this Sunday.
Yeah. You said Saturday earlier.
Did I? No, I did a competition on Saturday.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, that was like a demonstration one in NMA performance in Fareham, which is a fair bit away. But then that was basically he asked. He said, "Do you mind doing a demonstration at our competition so we can show hopefully what good lifting is like."
So
and
you weren't pushing to your limit
no,
there?
No, especially not with my injury.
Saving for this competition.
Yeah, I was just trying to look a bit sharpish, but I still missed 3 lifts out there, so that wasn't great. But it was a good running to see where I am with regards to my injury and what kind of stage I'm at a week before the British Championships, which is on Sunday. So that's a 2-day event at the Ricoh Arena in Coventry.
So is that the one that you won before?
Yeah, I won that one last year. This year's not looking great because the guy who snapped his elbow is very good. He's come back and the competition's high. So, especially with my injury,
So are you like head to head with somebody else, do you think?
There's a few guys, that are quite meaty that I like to, we battle it off. They're all from the London South East region. So we had a really good battle in November last year where we're all so close, we just edging around each other. And then the English was an okay battle, but some of us weren't in the best shape. But so the British champs would be good to see where we are. But if it comes down to the day and my shoulder's just not good enough, I'll probably have to pull out. But we'll see tonight how it is. It's always a bit of a time bomb. Obviously, I was training so hard and then I ended up hurting my shoulder. So it's not a great position to be in. But I enjoy competing, and 2 of our guys who are national champions have moved to. One of them moved away from work, and the other one's moved for another club for a bit. So essentially, I'm the only guy who's going to the British Champs, whereas last year it was 3 of us. So I'm the one flying the flag for Brunel this year. So I feel like partially I'm pressured to do it. But my doctor said I'm not going to do any damage if I lift. It's just about the pain in the shoulder, really.
That's good news.
Good and bad news.
So how can we get details to come along, watch you and support?
So you can buy tickets on britishweightlifting.org. You can also turn up. I think if you buy it online, there's discount as well. So you're better off buying it in advance. The program's up there, so definitely worth checking out the competition schedule. The Saturday's got the most amount of weightlifting, but I'm on the Sunday, so you go up for the weekend. The Sunday morning you've got the Paralympic bench press in the morning, and then a lot more weightlifting in the afternoon. So if you want a day, I'll definitely travel up.
So it's part of powerlifting as well?
Just the Paralympic stuff, yeah. Because I
know a lady doing that. I wonder if she's there.
Oh really? What's her name?
Sita.
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I remember you mentioning
she
did
her
it.
rims.
Yeah, she might be. There's I just don't know many who do it. Obviously, apart from the top guys, and I think the world champion, our guy, is not competing this weekend because he's got Crohn's disease and he's not in good shape. But I think he's bench pressed 190 at 56 kg body weight or something, which is a massive weight. But he's all triceps. His arms are massive. So yeah, it's quite crazy what they can lift.
But we're out of time now.
Oh.
So finally, tell us where we can find you on social media if anyone wants to follow.
So my most active source is Instagram, and that's at Kristian and Kilos. That's Kristian with a K, so Kristian and Kilos. Also, I've got Twitter, but I'm not too active, and that's just at Kristian Mcphee. And then I'd really recommend you follow for all our fun holiday stuff at Beaches and Barbells. That's on Instagram, or visit our website beachesandbarbells.com if you want to see what we do. And of course Facebook too, Beaches and Barbells. We try and, even if you're not coming on holidays, I think we've got some fantastic material out there if you want to see the stuff we do.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you today, and I will leave all of those details, all of the videos and everything in the show notes on the podcast or on Facebook if anyone wants to contact me, FeustelFIT. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
So that was today's show. I hope you enjoyed. And if you have a story to share and you'd like to come onto the radio and you're local, obviously, to 91.8 Hayes FM, please get in contact with me on social media. My handle is at FeustelFIT, FeustelFIT. If you have anything else you'd like to share, health and fitness or body image or mental health, and you can do that on the podcast from anywhere around the world, again, contact me on the same handle. So I've got coming up on the 19th of August a mental health awareness event that I'm doing for the charity Mind, I'm doing that alongside Into Uxbridge, which is a shopping centre that's local to me, and we're going to be doing fitness classes for everybody to feel the endorphins that exercise creates and can also help people with their mental health. We'll be talking about mental health openly on the mic and streaming it live with Hayes FM. So if you'd like to come along to that, please do. You can join in the activities, you'll get a goodie bag, some prizes that you might be able to win, and also you can play the drums. We've got drum unity coming in, and that's going to be fun activities for the whole family. Let's get talking about mental health. Let's break down those stigmas and raise awareness.
If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave Nicola a review on iTunes. You can also check out the show notes and get other free content on her website, FeustelFIT.co.uk. If you'd like to contact Nicola, email nicola@FeustelFIT.co.uk.